And now we have the media spin again that says Iran is dangerous, and you may remember the 97-0 vote in the Senate. At least the Gulf of Tonkin resolution had 2 dissenting votes. 97-0 in the Senate a few months back, condemning and warning Iran about how unacceptable it is for Iran, we're told, to allow or enable or participate in the passing of weapons, bombs over the border into Iraq. Can you imagine the nerve of a country actually sending bombs into Iraq? This is the level of Orwellianism that passes for, rational discourse. These are supposed to be these brilliant journalists. You can tune in. I mean, people talk about Fox News. It wasn't Fox News that had the most effect on dragging this country into a war on Iraq. It was the New York Times. It was the Washington Post. It was All Things Considered in the Morning Edition and the News Hour with Jim Lehrer. It was the Friday program. And that show, Washington Week on Friday, where the real learned journalists exchange conventional wisdom around the table. And you look at the funding chevrons, one of the underwriters, very neutral underwriters, Boeing has been an underwriter. And they talk about, and the words like military-industrial complex do not pass through their lips. Part of it, and the Warm and Easy film goes into this, in excruciating sometimes detail in terms of footage that has been pulled out of the Orwellian memory hole to look at Walter Cronkite in Vietnam, a flack for the war, contrary to myth. Walter Cronkite being emulated by, say, Ted Koppel flacking for the war, the invasion of Iraq. And you see that in the way that U.S. news media function, if somebody is a journalist, that journalist is considered to be biased if they're anti-war, but objective if they're pro-war. That's just absolutely routine. And so then we're encouraged to think that because it's a long-form report, that somehow we're getting in-depth journalism. So I think I'll send my money to the local PBS station, because boy, that News Hour with Jim Lehrer, they really give you the details. Or, there's a 15-minute segment on All Things Considered. And that is a question of form over substance. I mean, I really like travel, and when people who I visit are fortunate enough to live in a community with a radio station that deserves support, I really raise this question. Please consider taking any checks that you would have sent based on your past contributions to the local NPR PBS affiliate. Give it to a station, if you have one, and I understand KUNM might fall in that category, that actually does wide-ranging debate and serves as, to some degree, a counterweight to mainstream corporate-owned and underwritten and advertised media. I think it's very important that we support independent, progressive, alternative media outlets because the media flow is obviously crucial to what our possibilities are. There's so much of an emphasis now on the technology of media themselves. It used to be you might go to a party, you would talk about the content of articles. Now, I'm sure we still do because we're so concerned and erudite, but a lot of the discourse is about the latest handheld and the PDAs and the software and the this and the that. We're in a society that's transfixed with the form of communication. There used to be the precept GIGO, remember? Garbage in, garbage out. You hardly hear that anymore. When computers were newer, that was well understood. That the machinery is only as good as the human involvement in creativity and thinking and input. I found in a 1967 book, The Politics of Experience by R.D. Laing. Anybody remember that book? Yeah. Holds up pretty well. Unlike the book, remember Be Here Now? I reread it last year. I don't think it holds up too well. The title's good. It's kind of downhill from there, my opinion. But in The Politics of Experience, R.D. Laing wrote in 1967, machines are already becoming better at communicating with each other than human beings with human beings. The situation is ironical. More and more concerned about communication, less and less to communicate. And then there's Lee Strasberg, the great theatrical coach and director. This is what he had to say. Our society has spent so much time and has achieved such startling results with the discovery of new mechanical processes of communication, but we have somehow forgotten that the process of living demands the ability to respond, to make contact, and to communicate one's experience to another human being. It's really the human experience of war that's most missing from coverage of war. We hear all this other discussion of this, that, and the other, and the tactical issues, and is the United States making headway in Iraq, and what is the war gaming for an attack on Iran? But when Martin Luther King was describing what he called the madness of militarism, he, I think, was depicting a dynamic that was certainly true when he used the term during the Vietnam War, and it's true today, which is that the human dimensions, as human beings are being crushed by technology in the service of the warfare state, the human dimensions are reduced almost to the point that you can't even see them between the pixels on TV. It's just so diminished that the human realities are turned into wooden phrases. And we have this conceit that we're encouraged to embrace, that television brings war into our living rooms. Can you imagine anything less true? Anything less like the chaos and terror of war than watching a stable piece of furniture? Abstraction is really at the essence of war making. And living in a warfare state as we do, we're challenged to, I think, overcome that abstraction. And that's where, when I hear about people doing vigils and demonstrating and organizing and consistently doing the work, I feel a glimmer of, if not hope, at least a sense of possibilities that the warfare state is not invincible, that it can be turned around. And I don't know if it can be turned around or not, but I do know that we have a human responsibility and a human capacity to challenge the warfare state. Darwin said that the characteristic of humans that most distinguishes us from other animals is conscience. And so often conscience is not freed up. We're culturated to keep it tamped down. But we have a lot of potential, and I think we're learning how to explore it. So with that, I'll pause and ask for your comments and your questions.